Evelyn Thorne pressed her bleeding hands into the frozen earth and pushed. One more step. Just one. Behind her, 5 small voices had gone silent, not because they'd given up, but because they'd learned that crying only made the cold sharper. She'd been walking for 3 days since the town locked its church doors in her face. 3 days since the preacher's wife spat the word harlot at her feet. 3 days since she realized no one was coming. Then she saw the cabin. Before we continue, if you want to see how far Evelyn's story goes, and whether love can truly defy a town's hatred, subscribe to this channel. Comment below with the city you're watching from. I want to know how far this story of redemption travels. Now let's begin. Jabomo. The door opened before Evelyn could knock. A man stood there, tall and lean, with a face carved from hard winters and harder losses. His eyes, gray as smoke, sharp as flint, moved from her face to the children clinging to her skirts. He didn't speak, just stepped aside. "We ain't begging," Evelyn said, though her voice cracked on the lie. "Just need to get out of the wind for an hour. Then we'll be gone. Ain't nobody moving anywhere in this." He gestured to the blizzard howling outside. "Get inside before you freeze standing there." She hesitated. Men who offered kindness always wanted something back. "Ma'am," he said, quieter now, "I got a fire and a pot of stew. That's all I'm offering." Evelyn looked down at Clara, her oldest, who was 9, but looked 70 in the eyes. The girl nodded once. That was enough. They stumbled inside. The cabin was small, one room with a stone hearth, a wooden table, 2 chairs, and a bed shoved in the corner. But it was warm. God, it was warm. Evelyn's knees buckled and she caught herself on the doorframe. "Sit." The man pulled out a chair. "Kids too." "We're fine standing." Evelyn lied again. He didn't argue, just ladled stew into 5 tin bowls and set them on the table. The children stared at the food like it might vanish. No one moved. "It ain't poison," the man said. "And I ain't asking for thanks. Just eat." Clara was the first to reach. Then the others, Samuel Best Thomas and little Ruthie, who was only 3 and didn't remember what a full belly felt like. They ate fast, too fast, and Evelyn's throat tightened watching them. "You got names?" the man asked. Evelyn met his eyes. "Does it matter?" "Reckon it does if you're sitting in my house." She swallowed. "Evelyn Thorne. These are my children." "Thorne," he repeated slow. "You're Dutch Thorne's widow." Her spine stiffened. "I am. Heard he died 6 months back. Heard other things too." "I'm sure you did." Her voice turned to ice. "If you want us to leave, say it now." He shook his head. "Didn't say that." "Then what are you saying?" "I'm saying your husband died owing half the county. I'm saying folks blame you for his debts. I'm saying the church council declared you unfit and took your land." He paused. "I'm also saying none of that's got a damn thing to do with me." Evelyn blinked. "You don't care what people say." "People say a lot of things. Most of it's horseshit." Samuel, her 6-year-old boy, looked up. "Mama, he said a bad word." "I know, baby." The man almost smiled. "Name's Owen Calhoun. This was my brother's place before he died. Now it's mine and nobody else's. So, while you're here, you're safe." "We won't be here long." "Where are you planning to go?" She didn't answer because she didn't have one. Owen crouched down in front of Ruthie, who was still clutching her empty bowl. "You want more?" Ruthie looked at Evelyn. Evelyn's throat closed, but she nodded. Owen refilled the bowl. Then he refilled all of them. That night, Evelyn lay awake on the floor near the hearth while the children slept in Owen's bed. He'd insisted. She'd refused. He'd won by simply walking outside and chopping wood until she gave in. Now he sat in the corner oiling a saddle by lamplight. His hands moved slow and steady, like a man used to working alone. You don't have to do this, Evelyn whispered. Do what? Pretend we're not a burden. He didn't look up. You think I'd let you in if I thought you were? Most men would. I ain't most men. She studied him in the firelight. His jaw was tight, his shoulders broad, but there was something broken in the way he held himself, like he'd learned to carry weight no one else could see. Why'd you open the door? She asked. He stopped oiling. Because my wife died a year ago, and for 6 months after nobody knocked. Nobody checked. Nobody gave a damn. He looked at her then, and his eyes were raw. So when I heard you out there, I figured maybe God was giving me a chance to be better than the bastards who left me alone. Evelyn's breath caught. You don't owe me nothing, Owen continued. But if you're looking for a place to stay until the storm clears, you got one. And after the storm, he shrugged. We'll see. The storm didn't clear for 5 days. On the second day, Evelyn woke to find Owen teaching Samuel how to split kindling. The boy's hands were too small, but Owen guided them with the patience of a man who'd forgotten how to rush. Like this, Owen said. Let the axe do the work. You're just steering. Samuel swung. The wood split clean. His face lit up like the sun. I did it. You did. Owen ruffled his hair. Now do 10 more. Evelyn watched from the window, her chest tight. On the third day, Clara asked if she could help with the cooking. Evelyn started to say no. Clara was too young, too tired, but Owen cut in. Can you peel potatoes? Clara nodded. Then grab a knife and sit. They worked side by side, Owen's big hands dwarfing Clara's small ones. He didn't talk much, just showed her how to angle the blade, how to keep her fingers safe. When she finished, he nodded once. Good work. Clara smiled for the first time in months. On the fourth day, Thomas found a bird's nest in the rafters. He wanted to keep it. Evelyn said no. Owen said yes. Why? Evelyn asked when Thomas ran outside to show Samuel. Because boys need to care for something, Owen said simply. Reminds them they matter. Evelyn looked away before he could see the tears. On the 5th day, the wind finally died. Owen stood on the porch at dawn, scanning the horizon. The snow had stopped, but the drifts were high, and the world was white and silent. Storm's done, he said when Evelyn joined him. Roads might be clear by tomorrow. She nodded, though her stomach twisted. We'll leave first light. Where to? I'll figure it out. He turned to face her. You got family? No. Friends? Not anymore. Money. She shook her head. Owen exhaled slow. Then you got nowhere to go. I'll find work. Someone will. No one's going to hire you, Evelyn. Not after what the church said. Not after your husband's debts. His voice wasn't cruel, just honest. You walk out of here with those kids and you'll be dead in a week. Her hands curled into fists. So what do you want me to do? Stay here and owe you for the rest of my life. I want you to stay because it's the smart choice. And what do you get out of it? He looked at her for a long time. Maybe I get to stop being alone. Evelyn's breath hitched. I ain't asking for nothing. You're not willing to give, Owen said quietly. You want to leave. I'll pack you food and wish you luck. But if you stay as equals. You cook, I'll hunt. You mend, I'll build. We take care of the kids together, and we take care of each other. No debt. No shame. Just survival. People will talk. Let them. They'll call me worse than they already do. Then we won't go to town. Evelyn laughed, bitter and broken. You'd do that, cut yourself off from everyone just to let us stay. Owen stepped closer. I've been cut off since my wife died. At least this way I got a reason. She stared at him, searching his face for the lie, the trap, the cruelty she'd learned to expect from men. But all she saw was exhaustion and loneliness, and something that looked like hope. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care?" "Because I know what it's like to be thrown away." His voice cracked. "And I'll be damned if I let it happen to someone else." Evelyn closed her eyes. When she opened them again, the sun was rising, painting the snow gold. "1 month," she said. "We'll stay 1 month. If it doesn't work, we leave. No hard feelings." Owen nodded. "Deal." They shook hands, and for the first time in a year, Evelyn felt something other than fear. The first week was awkward. Evelyn cooked, but she burned the cornbread twice because Owen's stove ran hotter than hers used to. He didn't complain, just ate it with a straight face and said, "Tastes fine." "It tastes like charcoal." "Well, I like charcoal." She almost smiled. Owen taught Samuel and Thomas how to set snares for rabbits. Clara helped Evelyn sew patches onto their threadbare clothes. Bess, who was 5 and quiet as a ghost, spent hours staring out the window like she was waiting for something. Ruthie followed Owen everywhere. "Why's she always underfoot?" Evelyn asked one afternoon when Ruthie sat on Owen's boot while he tried to walk. "She's little," Owen said, unbothered. "Little ones need to know you ain't leaving. You know a lot about children for a man who never had any." His face went dark. "My wife was pregnant when she died." Evelyn froze. "Owen, don't." He scooped Ruthie up and set her on his shoulders. "It's done." But Evelyn saw the way his hands trembled when he held Ruthie, saw the way he avoided looking at the corner of the cabin where a cradle sat covered in dust. That night, after the children were asleep, Evelyn pulled the cradle out and carried it to the porch. Owen found her there an hour later. "What are you doing?" "You don't need this here," she said quietly. "It's just pain." "It's all I got left of her." "No." Evelyn met his eyes. "You got a choice. You can keep the pain, or you can make room for something new." Owen stared at the cradle, his jaw tight. Then slowly he picked it up and carried it to the barn. When he came back, his face was wet. They didn't talk about it. But the next morning, he smiled at Ruthie when she handed him a rock she'd found, and Evelyn knew he'd made his choice. 2 weeks in the town found them. Evelyn was hanging laundry when she saw the riders. 3 men on horseback, led by Pastor Gaines, the same man who'd locked the church doors in her face. "Owen!" She called, her voice sharp with panic. He came out of the barn, rifle in hand. "Stay inside." "No." "Evelyn, I ain't hiding." She stepped beside him, chin high, heart pounding. The riders stopped 10 feet from the porch. Pastor Gaines dismounted slow, his eyes cold. "Calhoun," he said, "we need to talk." "Then talk." Gaines gestured to Evelyn. "You know what she is. A woman trying to survive. She's a sinner, a harlot. The church council declared her unfit to raise those children. The church council ain't got jurisdiction here. Those children need to be placed with proper Christian families." Owen's grip tightened on the rifle. "They got a family. With her," Gaines spat. "She's living in sin, corrupting those innocent souls." "We ain't living in sin," Owen said, voice deadly calm. "She sleeps by the hearth. I sleep in the barn. The kids sleep in the bed. If you got a problem with that, it's your soul that's corrupt, not hers." One of the other men, a rancher named Hayes, leaned forward. "Town's got a responsibility, Calhoun. We can't let a woman of ill repute," Evelyn's voice cut like a whip. "My husband drank himself to death and left me with nothing. I worked every day to feed my children while you all watched and did nothing. And when I asked for help, you called me a whore and threw me out." Her eyes burned. "So don't you dare talk to me about reputation." Gaines's face reddened. "You will not speak to me that way." "Then get off my land," Owen said. "This ain't your land. This is your brother's. My brother's dead. The deed's in my name, and I'm telling you to leave." The third man reached for his gun. Owen raised the rifle. "Don't." The man froze. "You got 5 seconds," Owen said. "Then I start shooting." Gaines mounted his horse Fury, twisting his face. "This ain't over, Calhoun. The whole town will hear about this." "Good. Let them." The riders left dust rising behind them. Evelyn's knees buckled. Owen caught her before she fell. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I shouldn't have." "You did exactly what you should have done." He steadied her, his hands firm on her arms. "You stood your ground. That took more courage than anything I've ever seen." She looked up at him, and something shifted between them. Something warm and terrifying and real. "They'll come back," she said. "I know. They'll try to take the children. I know. Owen, I ain't letting them." His voice was iron. "I don't care what it costs. I ain't letting them take you or those kids. You hear me?" Evelyn nodded, tears streaming down her face. Behind them, Clara stood in the doorway watching, and in her small hand she held Owen's spare rifle. That night, Owen sat on the porch long after everyone else had gone to bed. The stars were cold and distant, and the wind whispered through the pines like a warning. He heard the door creak. Evelyn stepped out wrapped in a quilt. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Not anymore." She sat beside him. "You didn't have to do that today." "Yes, I did." "They'll ruin you." "They already did that when my wife died and nobody cared." He looked at her. "At least this way I got something worth being ruined for." Evelyn's breath caught. "Owen." "I ain't asking for nothing," he said quickly. "I just need you to know if you stay, I'll fight for you. And if you leave, I'll still fight for you. Because that's what you do when you give a damn about someone." She stared at him, her eyes wide and glistening. "And I give a damn about you, Evelyn Thorne." She didn't speak, just reached out and took his hand. They sat there in silence as the night deepened and the stars wheeled overhead, and for the first time in longer than either could remember, neither of them felt alone. Inside, Clara watched from the window, then she smiled and went back to bed. Morning came with frost on the windows and trouble on the wind. Owen was already awake feeding the horses in the barn when he heard the wagon. He stepped outside and saw Mayor Pritchard climbing down, flanked by 2 men Owen didn't recognize. They wore badges, which meant they weren't from around here. "Calhoun," Pritchard called, his voice carrying false warmth. "Got a moment?" Owen wiped his hands on his trousers and walked forward slow. "Depends what you want." "Just to talk." Pritchard gestured to the men. "These gentlemen are from the Territorial Child Welfare Board. They're here to assess the situation." "Ain't no situation to assess." The taller man stepped forward, pulling out a leather notebook. "Mr. Calhoun, I'm Inspector Morris. We've received complaints regarding 5 minors residing on your property without proper guardianship." They got a guardian, their mother. "Mrs. Thorne," Morris said, flipping a page, "has been deemed unfit by the local church council. Her late husband left substantial debts, and there are questions about her moral character." Owen's jaw tightened. "Her moral character ain't none of your damn business." "It is when children are involved." Morris looked past Owen toward the cabin. "We need to speak with Mrs. Thorne and examine the living conditions. You got a warrant. We don't need one for child welfare matters." Owen stepped between Morris and the cabin. "You ain't going nowhere near that house without my permission." Pritchard held up his hands. "Now, Owen, let's be reasonable. Nobody wants trouble. We just need to verify the children are safe and properly cared for." "They're safe." "Then you won't mind us seeing for ourselves." Owen's hand moved toward his hip where his pistol usually sat. It wasn't there, he'd left it inside. Pritchard noticed and smiled. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," Pritchard said softly. "You're already on thin ice with the town. You really want to add obstruction to the list." Before Owen could answer, the cabin door opened. Evelyn stepped out, Clara and Samuel behind her. She'd heard everything. "Let them in," she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Evelyn, Let them in. She looked at Morris. You want to see how my children live? Come see. Morris nodded and moved toward the porch. Owen grabbed his arm. You disrespect her or those kids, and badge or no badge, you'll answer to me. Morris pulled his arm free. Duly noted. Inside, Morris walked through the cabin with the precision of a man looking for failure. He checked the bedding, the food stores, the cleanliness of the floor. He asked Clara if she was scared. He asked Samuel if Mr. Calhoun had ever hit him. He asked Bess why she was so quiet. Evelyn stood rigid by the stove. Her hands clenched so tight her nails drew blood. Where do you sleep, Mrs. Thorne? Morris asked. By the hearth. And Mr. Calhoun? The barn. Morris wrote something down. How long have you been living here? 3 weeks. And what is the nature of your relationship with Mr. Calhoun? Owen stepped forward. That's enough. I'm conducting an assessment. You're fishing for dirt. There ain't none. Morris turned to Evelyn. Mrs. Thorne, has Mr. Calhoun made any inappropriate advances toward you or your children? Evelyn's eyes flashed. Mr. Calhoun saved our lives. He's fed us, clothed us, and treated us with more decency than anyone in this godforsaken town ever did. So no, Inspector, he hasn't made any advances. He's been nothing but kind. Morris didn't look convinced. He crouched in front of Ruthie, who was hiding behind Evelyn's skirts. Hello, little one. What's your name? Ruthie didn't answer. It's all right. I just want to talk. Are you happy here? Ruthie looked at Evelyn, then at Owen, then back at Morris. Finally, she whispered, I like Owen. Do you? Morris smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Does Owen take care of you? Ruthie nodded. Does your mama? Another nod. And do you have enough to eat? Owen makes pancakes, Ruthie said. Big ones. Morris stood, closing his notebook. Mrs. Thorne, the board will need to review this information. Until we make a determination, the children will remain in your custody, but we'll be checking in regularly. How regularly? Owen asked. As often as necessary. Pritchard cleared his throat. Owen, there's one more thing. The bank's been asking about your brother's debts. Seems there's still a lien on this property. Owen's blood ran cold. That was settled. Apparently not. They're talking about foreclosure. They can't do that. They can if you're harboring fugitives. Fugitives? Evelyn's voice cracked. We're not. Dutch Thorne owed money to half the county, Pritchard interrupted. His debts don't die with him. They pass to his widow. That ain't how the law works, Owen said. Maybe not, but perception is everything, Owen. And right now, the perception is that you're protecting a woman who owes people money she can't pay. Owen stepped closer, his voice dropping to a growl. You tell the bank to come talk to me, and you tell the church council to stay the hell off my land. Because if I see any of you here again without a real reason, I'll make sure you leave on a stretcher. Pritchard paled. Morris didn't flinch. We'll be in touch, Morris said, and walked out. After they left, Evelyn sank into a chair, her hands shaking. They're going to take them. No, they ain't. You heard him. The bank, the board, the church, they're all working together. Then we fight back. How? Her voice broke. Owen, you can't fight the whole town. Watch me. Clara tugged on Owen's sleeve. Are they going to take us away? Owen crouched down, meeting her eyes. No, Clara. I promise. You can't promise that, Evelyn whispered. I just did. He stood, his jaw set. And I don't break promises. Kid. That afternoon, Owen rode into town alone. He went straight to the bank where Mr. Hadley sat behind his desk, fat and smug. Calhoun, Hadley said, not standing. Didn't expect to see you. I'm here about the lien. Ah, yes. Unfortunate business, that. Your brother borrowed against the property and the payments lapsed after his death. I've been making payments. Not enough. Hadley pulled out a ledger. You're 3 months behind. That's a lie. Is it? Hadley smiled. The records say otherwise. Owen leaned across the desk. You changed the records. Careful, Calhoun. Accusations like that could get you in trouble. Not as much trouble as you'll be in if I find proof you're cheating me. Hadley closed the ledger. The bank wants full payment by the end of the month. Otherwise, we foreclose. How much? $800. Owen's stomach dropped. He didn't have half that. That's robbery. That's business. Hadley leaned back. Of course, if you were to stop harboring Mrs. Thorne and her children, the bank might be willing to renegotiate. Owen's fist slammed into the desk, cracking the wood. You son of a bitch. Hadley didn't flinch. Do we have an understanding? Yeah, we do. Owen straightened. You want your money, I'll get it. But when I do, you better pray I don't come looking for you. He walked out before he did something he'd regret. That night, Owen sat on the porch, staring at the stars. He had 2 weeks to come up with $800 and no idea how. The door opened. Evelyn stepped out. You shouldn't have gone to town, she said softly. Had to. And they want $800 by the end of the month. She closed her eyes. Owen, I'm sorry. This is my fault. It ain't. It is. If you weren't here, I'd be alone and miserable waiting for the bank to take the place anyway. He looked at her. At least now I got a reason to fight. But you don't have the money. I'll find it. How? He didn't answer because he didn't know. Evelyn sat beside him, wrapping the quilt around both of them. There's a cattle drive leaving from Bent Creek next week. They're hiring hands. That's 3 weeks of work. You'd be back in time. I ain't leaving you here alone. Owen, I said no. His voice was firm. They're looking for any excuse to take those kids. If I leave, they'll swoop in the second I'm gone. Then what do we do? He turned to her, his eyes fierce. We hold the line, together. She nodded, though the fear didn't leave her face. 2 days later, Evelyn was in the garden pulling weeds when a woman appeared on the road. She was young, maybe 30, with dark hair and a kind face. She carried a basket over her arm. Mrs. Thorne, she called. Evelyn stood wary. Who's asking? My name's Hannah Mercer. I live on the farm east of here. She held up the basket. I brought bread and preserves. Thought you might need them. Evelyn didn't move. Why? Hannah smiled. Because Pastor Gaines told everyone to stay away from you, and I figured anyone he hates that much must be worth knowing. Despite herself, Evelyn almost laughed. You always do the opposite of what preachers say. Only the bad ones. Hannah stepped closer. I heard what happened at the bank, and I heard Owen threatened Hadley. Whole town's buzzing. I'm sure they are. Most folks think he's crazy. Hannah paused. But I think he's brave. Evelyn's throat tightened. He's going to lose everything because of me. Maybe. Or maybe he's finally found something worth losing everything for. Hannah set the basket down. My husband died 2 years ago. Left me the farm and nothing else. I know what it's like to be alone. And I know what it's like when someone decides you're not worth helping. She met Evelyn's eyes. So if you need anything, food, help, a friend, you come find me. Evelyn stared at her tears, stinging her eyes. Why would you do that? Because women like us have to stick together. Hannah smiled. Besides, I like your boy Samuel. He waved at me on the road last week. First person to do that in months. Evelyn's composure cracked. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm not rich and I can't fight the church council. But I can bake bread and watch your kids if you need it. That's something. It's more than something. Evelyn's voice broke. It's everything. Hannah squeezed her hand, then left. Owen found Evelyn an hour later sitting on the porch with the basket in her lap, crying. What happened? He asked, alarmed. Someone was kind. She looked up at him, her face streaked with tears. I forgot what that felt like. He sat beside her and didn't say anything. Just let her cry until she couldn't anymore. The next Sunday, Owen and Evelyn didn't go to church, but the church came to them. It was mid-morning when the crowd appeared, 20 people, maybe more, led by Pastor Gaines and his wife. They carried torches, which made no sense in daylight, but the message was clear. Owen stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand. Evelyn stood behind him, the children inside. That's far enough, Owen called. Gaines raised a Bible. We're here to save those children from sin. They ain't in sin. They're in my house. Your house built on fornication and lies. Gaines pointed at Evelyn. That woman is a temptress, a harlot, and you're complicit in her wickedness. Owen cocked the rifle. You call her that one more time and I'll blow your sanctimonious head off. The crowd murmured. Some stepped back. Others didn't. Mrs. Gaines stepped forward, her voice shrill. You can't threaten a man of God. He ain't a man of God. He's a coward hiding behind a collar. Owen's voice carried across the yard. You want to talk about sin? How about the sin of turning away a starving woman and her kids? How about the sin of letting children freeze because their mama didn't have a ring on her finger? You want to save someone, preacher? Start with your own goddamn soul. Gaines trembled with rage. You'll burn for this, Calhoun. Maybe. But at least I'll burn knowing I did the right thing. A voice cut through the tension. He's right. Everyone turned. Hannah Mercer stood at the edge of the crowd, her arms crossed. He's right, she repeated louder. We turned our backs on Evelyn Thorne when she needed us most. We let her husband's sins become hers. We judged her without mercy, and now we're standing here with torches pretending we're righteous. She shook her head. We should be ashamed. Mrs. Mercer, Gaines began, you don't understand. I understand just fine. I understand that you're scared because Owen Calhoun's doing what you should have done, and instead of admitting you were wrong, you're doubling down. Another voice joined hers. Old man Carter, who owned the feed store. She's got a point, preacher. We ain't exactly been Christian about this. And those kids ain't done nothing wrong, added Mrs. Tooley, the midwife. Taking them from their mama, that's cruelty, not salvation. Gaines looked around, realizing he was losing the crowd. This is the devil's work. The devil's work, Hannah interrupted, is making good people afraid to do good things. Now go home, Pastor, before you embarrass yourself further. The crowd began to disperse, some muttering apologies, others just slinking away. Gaines stood alone for a moment, his face purple with fury. Then he turned and left. Owen lowered the rifle, his hands shaking. Hannah walked up to the porch. You all right? She asked. Thanks to you, Owen said. She shrugged. I meant what I said. Women like us stick together. She glanced at Evelyn. And men like Owen are worth protecting. Evelyn stepped forward and hugged her. Hannah held her tight. That night, after the children were asleep, Owen and Evelyn sat by the fire. She was mending a shirt. He was whittling a toy horse for Thomas. You think they'll come back? She asked. Maybe, but they won't have as many on their side next time. She smiled faintly. You made enemies today. I had enemies yesterday. Today I made friends. Hannah's good people. She is. Owen set down the half-carved horse. Evelyn, I need to ask you something. Her hands stilled. What? When this is over, if we get through this, what do you want? What do you mean? I mean, do you want to stay here, or do you want to move on, start fresh somewhere else? She looked at him, her eyes searching. What do you want? I want you to stay, he said quietly. Not because you owe me. Not because you got nowhere else to go, but because you want to. Her throat worked. Owen, I know it's too soon. I know you probably don't feel that way about me. But I need you to know I ain't keeping you here out of duty. I'm keeping you here because when I look at you, I see someone worth fighting for. And when I look at those kids, I see a family I didn't know I wanted until they showed up. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. I don't know if I can give you what you want. I ain't asking for nothing but honesty. She set down the shirt and turned to face him fully. Then here's the truth. I'm scared. I'm scared that if I let myself care about you, something will take it away. I'm scared that you'll wake up one day and realize I'm not worth the fight. I'm scared that... You're worth it, he interrupted. Every damn day you're worth it. She broke down, then sobbing into her hands. Owen pulled her close, holding her while she cried. And when she finally pulled back, her face wet and raw, she whispered, I want to stay. God help me, I want to stay. He cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear. Then stay. They sat there, foreheads touching the fire crackling between them. And outside, the night wind carried the scent of rain and the promise of something new. The next morning, Owen woke to find Clara standing over him in the barn. You love my mama? She asked bluntly. Owen sat up, rubbing his eyes. That's a bold question, kid. You do, though. I can tell. He sighed. Yeah, Clara, I do. She nodded, satisfied. Good. Because she loves you too. She just don't know how to say it yet. How do you know? Because she smiles when she talks about you, and she don't smile much. Clara turned to leave, then paused. If you hurt her, I'll shoot you with your own rifle. Owen almost laughed. Fair enough. She walked away, and Owen sat there shaking his head, 9 years old, and already tougher than most men he knew. 3 days later, the letter came. It was delivered by a rider Owen didn't recognize. The envelope was official, stamped with the territorial seal. Owen's stomach sank as he opened it. Notice of foreclosure, final warning. Payment due in 10 days. Failure to comply will result in seizure of property. He crumpled the paper and threw it into the fire. Evelyn saw his face. What did it say? We got 10 days. Her face went pale. Owen, I'll figure it out. How? He didn't answer, just walked outside and saddled his horse. Where are you going? She called after him. To find money. He rode hard toward Bent Creek, the cattle town 20 miles east. If he could sign on for a drive, he might make enough in time. It was a long shot, but it was the only shot they had. When he arrived, the foreman took one look at him and shook his head. Drive left yesterday, the man said. We're full up. Owen's heart sank. There's got to be something. Not till spring. He rode back slower, the weight of failure pressing on his chest. When he reached the cabin, it was dark. Evelyn was waiting on the porch. No luck? She asked softly. No. She nodded like she'd expected it. Then we leave. What? We pack up the kids and leave, tonight, before the bank comes. Evelyn, I ain't running. Then you'll lose everything. I already lost everything once. I can do it again. But I can't. Her voice broke. I can't watch you lose your home because of me. I can't, Owen. He grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me. This place don't mean nothing if you're not in it. You hear me? Nothing. Owen, we stay. We fight. And if we lose together. She stared at him, tears streaming down her face. Then she kissed him. It was desperate and fierce and full of everything they'd been too afraid to say. When they pulled apart, they were both shaking. Together, she whispered. Together, he echoed. Behind them, the children watched from the window. Clara smiled. Samuel gave a quiet whoop. And little Ruthie clapped her hands even though she didn't quite understand why. Outside the moon rose full and bright, and in the distance thunder rumbled, carrying with it the promise of a storm.
Cherry.
The storm hit 3 days later, not rain, but men. Owen was in the barn sharpening tools when he heard the horses. 6 riders this time, led by Sheriff Dawson. Behind him rode Hadley from the bank, Inspector Morris, and 3 deputies Owen had never seen before. He walked out slow, wiping his hands. Evelyn appeared on the porch, Clara and Samuel flanking her like sentries. "Sheriff," Owen said, keeping his voice level. Dawson dismounted, his face apologetic but firm. "Owen, I got papers here from the bank. Foreclosure notice. I'm authorized to seize the property effective immediately." "You're 3 days early." Bank moved up the deadline. Hadley stepped forward, smug as ever. "We have the right to expedite in cases of suspected fraud." "What fraud?" "Harboring debtors, concealing assets." Hadley gestured toward Evelyn. "Mrs. Thorne owes money to multiple creditors. By allowing her to reside here, you're complicit in debt evasion." Owen's jaw clenched. "That's horseshit, and you know it." "Language, Mr. Calhoun," Morris interjected. "The children are present." "The children are about to watch you throw their family off their land," Owen shot back. "So forgive me if I ain't worried about my language." Dawson held up the papers. "Owen, I don't like this any more than you do. But I got a job to do." "Then do it." Owen's voice turned cold. "But you're going to have to drag us out because we ain't leaving." One of the deputies reached for his gun. Dawson stopped him with a look. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," Dawson said quietly. "You want hard." Owen stepped closer. "I'll give you hard. You take 1 step toward that house and I'll put you down, badge or no badge." "That's a threat against a lawman." "That's a promise to protect my family." "Your family," Morris sneered. "You're not married to that woman. Those aren't your children. You have no legal claim to any of them." "I got the only claim that matters. They're mine because I chose them, and I'll be damned if I let you take them." Evelyn's voice cut through the tension. "Owen, stop." He turned. She was walking toward him, her face pale but resolute. "Don't," he said. "They're right." Her voice trembled. "You can't fight the law, and I can't let you lose everything for us." "Evelyn." "I'll go." She looked at Dawson. "If I leave, does Owen keep the property?" Hadley answered instead. "That depends. If you surrender yourself and the children to the custody of the Territorial Board, and if Mr. Calhoun agrees to pay the outstanding debts within 30 days, the bank will consider renegotiating." Owen grabbed her arm. "You ain't doing this." "I don't have a choice." "Yes, you do. We fight. And lose." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Owen, I've already lost everything once. I can't watch you lose it too." "I don't care about the land. I care about you." "But I care about you." She pulled free, her voice breaking. "I care about you too much to let you destroy yourself for me." Clara ran forward, wrapping her arms around Evelyn's waist. "Mama, no." Samuel joined her. Then Bess, then Thomas. Ruthie clung to Evelyn's skirts, crying. "Please," Clara begged. "Don't let them take us." Morris stepped forward. "Mrs. Thorne, the children will be placed in appropriate homes. You'll be given an opportunity to resolve your debts and petition for their return." "How long?" Evelyn's voice was hollow. 6 months. Maybe more. 6 months. She closed her eyes. "They'll forget me in 6 months." "No, we won't," Clara shouted. "We'll never forget you." Owen turned to Dawson, desperation cracking his voice. "There's got to be another way." "There ain't." Dawson looked genuinely pained. "I'm sorry, Owen." Hadley pulled out a pocket watch. "You have 5 minutes to gather your belongings, Mrs. Thorne. The children will come with us now." "Like hell they will," Owen growled. Owen. Evelyn's hand touched his chest. Please, don't make this worse. It can't get worse. Yes, it can. They can arrest you. They can hurt you. And then where will we be? She looked up at him, her eyes drowning. Let me go. Let me keep you safe for once. His hands came up to cup her face. I can't. You have to. They stood there, foreheads pressed together while the world collapsed around them. Then Evelyn pulled away and turned to the children. Listen to me, she said, kneeling down. You're going to go with these men, and it's going to be scary. But I need you to be brave. I don't want to be brave, Samuel whispered. I want to stay here. I know, baby, but we don't always get what we want. She kissed his forehead. You take care of your sisters, you hear me? And when I come for you, and I will come for you, I'm going to need you to remember that I never stopped fighting. She moved to Clara next. You're strong, stronger than me. Don't forget that. Mama. And don't let them separate you. You stay together no matter what. Promise me. Clara nodded, tears streaming down her face. Evelyn kissed Bess, whispered something in Thomas's ear, and then picked up Ruthie, holding her so tight the little girl gasped. I love you, Evelyn said. I love all of you, and I'm coming back. Morris gestured to the deputies. Take them. No. Clara lunged at Morris, her small fists pounding his chest. You can't take us? One of the deputies grabbed her. She bit his hand. He yelped and shoved her back. Owen moved instinctively, his fist connecting with the deputy's jaw. The man went down hard. Owen, don't! Evelyn screamed, but it was too late. The other deputies swarmed him. He fought like a wild animal, landing punches, taking blows, refusing to go down. It took all three of them to pin him to the ground. Stop it! Evelyn sobbed. Please stop! Dawson pulled his gun. Calhoun, stand down. Owen spat blood. Go to hell! Dawson cocked the hammer. I will shoot you if I have to. Then shoot me. Owen, no. Evelyn threw herself between them. Please, no. I'll go quietly. Just don't hurt him. Dawson lowered the gun slowly. Get the children in the wagon. The deputies hauled Clara, Samuel, Bess, Thomas, and Ruthie toward the wagon despite their screams and struggles. Clara fought the hardest, clawing and kicking until Morris physically lifted her off the ground. Let me say goodbye, she begged. Please let me say goodbye. Morris ignored her. Evelyn turned back to Owen, who was still on the ground, bleeding from a split lip and a gash above his eye. She knelt beside him. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't apologize. His voice was raw. Don't you dare apologize for being the best thing that ever happened to me. Owen, I'll get you back. All of you. I swear to God I'll get you back. She kissed him one last time, tasting blood and salt in desperation. Then she stood and walked toward the wagon. The children were screaming. Clara's voice rose above the rest. Owen! Owen, help us! He tried to stand, but the deputies held him down. Let them go! Let them go, you bastards! Dawson mounted his horse. Owen, if you come after us, I'll have you arrested for assault on a lawman. You'll hang. You understand me? Owen didn't answer, just glared with murder in his eyes. The wagon pulled away. Evelyn sat in the back, arms around as many children as she could hold. Clara reached toward Owen, her hand outstretched, her face twisted with anguish. Owen watched until they disappeared over the hill. Then he collapsed, his body shaking with sobs he couldn't control. Hannah Mercer found him an hour later, still on the ground, staring at nothing. Owen, she said softly, kneeling beside him. He didn't respond. Owen, you're hurt. Let me help you. They took them. His voice was hollow. I couldn't stop them. I know. I promised her. I promised I'd keep them safe. You did everything you could. It wasn't enough. He turned to her, his face ravaged. What do I do now? Hannah helped him stand. You get up, you clean yourself up, and you figure out how to get them back. How I got no money, no power, no. You got something better. You got people who believe in you. She steadied him. And you got me. He looked at her, uncomprehending. I talked to Old Man Carter and Mrs. Tooley after the church thing. We've been putting together some money. It ain't 800, but it's a start. Hannah. And there's more. She pulled a folded paper from her apron. I rode out to the Hendricks Ranch this morning. They're doing a cattle drive to Denver next week. Pays $200 for 3 weeks' work. You sign on, combine it with what we raised, and you might have enough to pay the bank and hire a lawyer. Owen stared at the paper. Why would you do this? Because Evelyn's not the only one who's been thrown away by this town, and I'm tired of watching good people suffer because bad people got power. She pressed the paper into his hand. Now go wash your face. You look like hell. He almost smiled. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still got a war to win. That night, Owen sat alone in the cabin. It felt enormous without the children's noise, without Evelyn's presence. He walked through the rooms, touching things they'd touched. Clara's sewing needle on the table. Samuel's carved bird on the windowsill. Ruthie's rag doll on the bed. He picked up the doll and held it, his chest aching. A knock at the door startled him. He opened it to find a thin man in a dusty coat holding a leather satchel. Mr. Calhoun. Who's asking? My name's Tobias Wren. I'm a lawyer from Denver. He held out a hand. Owen didn't take it. I heard about your situation from Mrs. Mercer. I'd like to help. I can't pay you. I don't want payment. I want to take down a corrupt church council and a crooked banker. Wren smiled. That's payment enough. Owen stepped aside. Come in. They sat at the table, and Wren spread out papers. Here's the situation. The bank's foreclosure is technically legal, but the accelerated timeline isn't. They needed to give you 30 days notice, not 10. That's actionable. Can you stop them? Maybe, but it'll take time, and money for filing fees. How much? $50. Owen's heart sank. I don't have it. I do. Wren pulled out a stack of bills. Consider it a loan. You pay me back when you can. Why would you do that? Wren's face darkened. Because 10 years ago, I lost my daughter to the territorial board. They took her from my wife and me because we were poor, said we couldn't provide. By the time I made enough money to fight back, she'd been adopted by someone else. I never saw her again. His voice cracked. So when I hear about men like Hadley and Morris using the law to destroy families, I take it personal. Owen swallowed hard. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Help me fight back. Wren pulled out another paper. I'm filing an injunction tomorrow to halt the foreclosure. I'm also petitioning the territorial governor to investigate the church council's authority over child welfare. It's a long shot, but if we can prove corruption, we can get those kids back. How long? Best case 6 weeks, worst case 6 months. Owen's fist hit the table. I can't wait 6 months. You might have to. No. Owen stood. I'm getting them back now. Owen, if you try to take those children by force, you'll be arrested. You'll never see them again. Then I'll be smart about it. He grabbed his coat. Where'd they take them? The church orphanage in Ridgemont. But Owen, thanks for your help, Mr. Wren. I mean it. But I can't sit here doing nothing while they're scared and alone. You're going to get yourself killed. Maybe. Owen opened the door. But at least I'll die trying. He saddled his horse and rode into the night. Ridgemont was 40 miles south, a grim little town built around coal mines and misery. The orphanage sat on the edge, a gray building with barred windows and a chain-link fence. Owen arrived at dawn and watched from the trees. Children moved in the courtyard, all dressed in identical gray uniforms. He spotted Samuel first, his small frame hunched against the cold. Then Bess holding Thomas's hand. Clara stood apart. Her arms crossed her face, defiant. Ruthie was nowhere to be seen. Owen's blood ran cold. He waited until the children went inside, then circled the building. A back door led to the kitchen. He tested the handle. Locked. Looking for something? He spun. A woman stood behind him, old and rail-thin, with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. "Who are you?" Owen asked. "I'm the cook, and you're trespassing." "I'm looking for my daughter." "You mean one of the new arrivals, the Thorne children?" She snorted. "They ain't yours." "Where's the little one, Ruthie?" The woman's face softened slightly. "Sick. Fever came on last night. They got her in the infirmary." "I need to see her." "You can't. Matron's orders, no visitors." Owen pulled out a $20 bill, one of the last he had. "I need to see her." The woman eyed the money, then sighed. "You got 5 minutes. Matron catches you, we're both done." She led him through the kitchen to a narrow hallway. The infirmary was a single room with 6 cots. Ruthie lay in the corner, her face flushed, her breathing shallow. Owen knelt beside her. "Ruthie, baby, it's Owen." Her eyes fluttered open. "Owen, I'm here. I want Mama." Her voice was so small, it broke him. "I know. I'm going to get her. I'm going to get all of you. But you gotta hold on, okay? You gotta be strong. I'm tired. I know, baby, but you can't give up. You hear me? You can't." Footsteps echoed in the hall. The cook hissed, "You gotta go, now." Owen kissed Ruthie's forehead. "I'll be back, I promise." He slipped out the back door just as the matron entered the infirmary. Owen rode straight back to Ridgemont's telegraph office and sent a message to Wren Ruthie, "Sick. Need help now." The reply came within an hour, filing emergency petition. Stay put. But Owen couldn't stay put. He rode back to the cabin, gathered supplies, and was loading his saddlebags when Hannah arrived. "I heard you went to Ridgemont," she said. "Ruthie's sick." "I know, Wren told me." She dismounted and walked toward him. "Owen, you can't do this alone." "I ain't got a choice." "Yes, you do. You let people help you." "How?" She pulled out a folded paper. "Old Man Carter's offering his barn as a meeting place. Mrs. Tooley's got medicine, and the blacksmith's son said he'll ride with you if it comes to a fight." Owen stared at her. "Why would they do that?" "Because you stood up when the rest of us sat down. Because you showed us what courage looks like." She gripped his arm. "You ain't alone anymore, Owen, so stop acting like it." His throat tightened. "I don't deserve this." "Maybe not, but you got it anyway." She smiled. "Now come on, we got work to do." They met at Carter's barn that night, 15 people in all. Carter, Mrs. Tooley the blacksmith and his son Hannah, and others Owen barely knew. Wren was there too, papers spread across a hay bale. "Here's the plan," Wren said. "I filed an emergency petition this afternoon. The judge agreed to hear it day after tomorrow. If we can prove the children are in danger, he'll order their release." "What do we need to prove it?" Owen asked. "Medical testimony, witness statements, evidence of neglect or abuse." Mrs. Tooley raised her hand. "I delivered Ruthie 3 years ago. I can testify she's fragile. A fever in that place could kill her." "That helps," Wren said, "but we need more." Carter spoke up. "I used to deliver goods to that orphanage. Saw kids with bruises. Heard them crying at night. Never said nothing because I didn't think it mattered." His voice broke. "But it matters now." "I'll testify too," Hannah said. "I'll tell them what the church council did to Evelyn, how they threw her out without cause." One by one, people volunteered. Stories poured out, stories of cruelty, corruption, and cowardice. Owen listened, his heart swelling with something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. "We got 2 days," Wren said. "That's enough time to build a case, But Owen, you need to stay away from Ridgemont. If you get arrested, we lose. What about Evelyn? Owen asked. Where is she? County jail, held on debtor charges. Wren's face darkened. Hadley's making sure she can't interfere. Owen's hands clenched. I'm getting her out. Not yet. We get the kids first, then we go after her. She's suffering. So are the kids. And if you get yourself killed trying to be a hero, they all lose. Wren met his eyes. Trust me, Owen. 2 more days. Owen wanted to argue, wanted to ride to that jail and tear the doors off. But he looked around at the faces staring back at him, people who'd risked everything to help, and he nodded. 2 days. The hearing was held in a cramped courtroom that smelled of sweat and old wood. Judge Carver presided, a gray-haired man with a reputation for fairness. Wren presented the case with precision, calling witnesses one by one. Mrs. Tooley testified about Ruthie's condition. Carter testified about the orphanage's abuses. Hannah testified about the church council's bias. Each story built on the last painting a picture of systematic cruelty. Morris and Pastor Gaines sat across the aisle, their faces red with fury. When it was Owen's turn, Wren asked him one question. Mr. Calhoun, why do you want these children back? Owen looked at the judge. Because they're mine. Not by blood, but by choice. I chose to love them. I chose to protect them. And I'll keep choosing them every damn day for the rest of my life. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Carver leaned back. Mr. Morris, do you have a response? Morris stood. Your Honor, Mr. Calhoun is not the legal guardian. He has no rights. He has every right, Wren interrupted. Under territorial law, a man who provides care and shelter for abandoned children is entitled to petition for guardianship, which is exactly what we're doing. Carver nodded slowly. I'll take this under advisement. Court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. Owen spent that night on the courthouse steps, unable to sleep. Hannah sat with him. You think we'll win? He asked. I don't know. She paused. But I think you already won something else. What's that? Yourself. She looked at him. A year ago, you were a broken man waiting to die. Now you're a man fighting to live. That's worth something. He smiled faintly. You always this wise. Only when I'm scared. She squeezed his hand. We're going to get them back, Owen. I feel it. The next morning, Judge Carver called the court to order. His face was unreadable. I've reviewed the testimony, he said, and I've made my decision. Owen's heart stopped. The children will be released into Mr. Calhoun's temporary custody, pending a full guardianship hearing in 30 days. Furthermore, I'm ordering an investigation into the Territorial Child Welfare Board's practices in this county. He banged his gavel. Mrs. Thorne will also be released from jail immediately. All charges dropped. The courtroom erupted. Owen sank into his chair, tears streaming down his face. Hannah hugged him. Wren shook his hand. We did it, Wren said, grinning. We actually did it. But Owen wasn't listening. He was already running toward the door, toward the jail, toward Evelyn. She met him halfway, her face gaunt, but her eyes alive. They collided in the street, holding each other like they'd never let go. I told you, he whispered. I told you I'd get you back. I know. She pulled back, cupping his face. I never doubted you. Behind them, a wagon pulled up. The children spilled out, running toward them with screams of joy. Clara reached them first, then Samuel Bess Thomas, and finally Ruthie, weak but smiling, carried by Mrs. Tooley. They stood there in the middle of the street, a tangle of arms and tears and laughter, while the town watched in silence. Pastor Gaines stood on the church steps, his face twisted with rage. But he didn't move, didn't speak, just turned and walked away. Owen looked down at Evelyn. Let's go home. She nodded. Let's go home. The wagon ride home was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that felt like breathing after drowning. Ruthie slept in Evelyn's lap, her fever broken, but her body still weak. Clara sat pressed against Owen's side, her hand gripping his coat like she was afraid he'd disappear. Samuel and Thomas wedged themselves between the adults, and Bess just stared ahead, her eyes distant. "You all right?" Owen asked Bess softly. She didn't answer right away. Then, so quiet, he almost missed it, she said, "They told us you weren't coming back." Owen's jaw tightened. "Who told you that?" "The matron. She said people like us don't get saved. She said we'd be there until we were old enough to work." Evelyn's hand found Bess's, squeezing tight. "She lied, baby." "I know." Bess looked up, her eyes wet. "But I believed her for a little while." "That's okay," Owen said. "What matters is, you're here now." When they reached the cabin, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Owen helped Evelyn down first, then the children. They stood there, all of them, just looking at the place like they couldn't quite believe it was real. "Go on," Owen said. "It's yours." Clara was the first to move, running toward the door and flinging it open. The others followed their voices, rising in relief and joy. Owen and Evelyn lingered outside. "I didn't think I'd see this place again," she said quietly. "I didn't think I'd see you again." She turned to him, her eyes searching his face. "What happens now?" "Now we live." He took her hand. "We wake up tomorrow, and we live. And the day after that, we do it again. Until it stops feeling like a miracle and starts feeling like normal. I don't know if it'll ever feel normal. Then we'll make a new kind of normal." She smiled, fragile but real, and let him lead her inside. That first night back was chaos. The children wanted to touch everything, to reclaim every corner of the space that had been taken from them. Samuel found the toy horse Owen had been carving and held it like a treasure. Clara insisted on cooking dinner, even though her hands shook. Thomas and Bess dragged every quilt and blanket into the center of the room and built a nest. Ruthie wouldn't let go of Evelyn. Every time Evelyn tried to set her down, Ruthie whimpered and clung tighter. "She's scared," Owen said, watching from the doorway. "I know." Evelyn's voice was thick. "They all are." "So are you." She looked at him, and the truth in her eyes was raw. "I keep thinking they're going to come back, that someone's going to knock on the door and take them again." "They won't." "You can't promise that." "I can try." He walked over and knelt beside Ruthie, brushing her hair back. "Hey, little one, you know what I did while you were gone?" Ruthie shook her head. "I built you something. Want to see?" She hesitated, then nodded. Owen stood and held out his hand. She took it, glancing back at Evelyn for permission. Evelyn nodded, though her arms felt empty without the weight of her daughter. Owen led Ruthie outside to the barn. Inside, tucked in the corner, was a small wooden rocking horse, painted white with a red saddle. Ruthie's eyes went wide. "For me." "For you." Owen lifted her onto it and gave it a gentle push. The horse rocked back and forth, creaking softly. Ruthie's face lit up, and for the first time since they'd gotten her back, she laughed. Evelyn stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. "You made that?" she asked when Owen came back inside. "Had to do something while you were gone. Kept my hands busy so my mind didn't break." She crossed the room and kissed him, hard and desperate and full of everything she couldn't say. He held her like she was the only thing keeping him upright. When they pulled apart, Clara was standing there, her arms crossed, a knowing smile on her face. "You two going to get married or what?" she asked. Evelyn's face flushed. "Clara, because if you are, I think you should do it soon, before someone else tries to take us away." Owen looked at Evelyn. "She's got a point." "Owen, I ain't asking because I think I have to. I'm asking because I want to." He took her hands. "Marry me, Evelyn. Not for the law, not for the town. For us." She stared at him, her breath catching. "You really want that?" "I've wanted it since the day you tied that ribbon on the porch." He smiled. Took me a while to admit it, but yeah, I want that. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were different. Softer. Yes, Clara whooped. Samuel started clapping. Bess smiled shyly. Thomas asked if there'd be cake. We'll figure out the cake, Owen said, laughing. First we got to find someone to marry us. Not Pastor Gaines, Evelyn said quickly. Hell no, not him. Hannah's voice came from the doorway. How about Judge Carver? They all turned. Hannah stood there grinning with Mrs. Tooley and Old Man Carter behind her. We came to check on you, Hannah said, but it sounds like we're just in time for a celebration. We ain't planned nothing yet, Owen said. Then let's plan it now. Hannah stepped inside, already taking charge. Carver owes you a favor after that court case. I bet he'd marry you tomorrow if you asked. Tomorrow? Evelyn's voice rose. That's too soon. Why wait? Hannah shot back. You love him, don't you? Yes, but... And you want to protect these kids? Of course. Then marry him. Make it legal so nobody can question it again. Evelyn looked at Owen, and he nodded. She's right. We do it tomorrow, and we do it in front of everyone. Let the whole town see. What if they don't come? Then we marry in front of the people who matter. He gestured to Hannah, Mrs. Tooley, and Carter. That's enough. Evelyn exhaled slowly, then nodded. All right, tomorrow. Dad. The next day, they gathered outside the courthouse at noon. Judge Carver stood on the steps, Bible in hand, looking more nervous than Owen had ever seen him. Never done this before, Carver admitted. Usually it's just signing papers. You'll do fine, Wren said, clapping him on the shoulder. A small crowd had gathered, not the whole town, but more than Owen expected. Hannah and her farm hands, Mrs. Tooley and her daughters, Carter and the blacksmith. Even a few people Owen didn't recognize, folks who'd heard about the fight and wanted to witness the ending. Pastor Gaines was not among them. Neither was Hadley, but their absence felt like a victory. Evelyn wore a simple dress Hannah had loaned her, pale blue with lace at the collar. Clara had braided her hair, weaving in wildflowers the children had picked that morning. She looked scared and beautiful, and entirely herself. Owen wore his cleanest shirt and the coat his brother had left him. His hands shook as he stood beside her. You sure about this? He whispered. Are you? Never been more sure of anything. She smiled. Then let's do it. Carver cleared his throat. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. Well, I reckon you know why we're here. He fumbled with the Bible. Owen Calhoun, do you take Evelyn Thorne to be your lawfully wedded wife? To have and to hold in sickness and in health for richer or poorer, till death do you part. Owen's voice was steady. I do. And Evelyn Thorne, do you take Owen Calhoun to be your lawfully wedded husband? To have and to hold in sickness and in health for richer or poorer, till death do you part. Evelyn's voice broke. I do. Then by the power vested in me by the territory, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Carver smiled. You may kiss the bride. Owen cupped her face and kissed her soft and reverent, like a promise. The crowd cheered. The children clapped and laughed, and for one perfect moment, the world felt whole. The celebration lasted into the evening. Hannah had brought food, and Mrs. Tooley had baked a small cake. They ate on the courthouse steps, passing around plates and telling stories. The children ran wild, freed from the weight of the past weeks. But as the sun dipped low, Owen noticed Evelyn growing quieter. She sat on the edge of the steps, watching the children play, her expression distant. You all right? He asked, sitting beside her. I keep waiting for something to go wrong. Nothing's going to go wrong. You don't know that. She turned to him. Owen, we still got the guardianship hearing in 30 days. What if they decide you're not fit? What if they take them again? They won't. But what if they do? He took her hand. Then we'll fight again, and again, and again, until they realize we ain't going anywhere. I'm tired of fighting. I know. He squeezed her hand. But we're almost through. Wren says the hearing's just a formality. Carver's already on our side. The investigation into the welfare board is making people nervous. They're not going to risk another public loss. And Hadley Gaines. They're just going to let this go. Owen's jaw tightened. No, they're not. Then what do? We stay ready. He looked at her, his eyes hard. And if they come for us again, we don't back down. 2 weeks later, Owen was in the barn when he heard horses. He grabbed his rifle and stepped outside. 5 riders approached, but they weren't lawmen. They were ranchers' men Owen recognized from the edges of town, men who'd kept their distance during the trial. The lead rider dismounted. His name was Garrett, a grizzled man who owned land to the north. "Calhoun," Garrett said, tipping his hat. "Garrett." Owen kept the rifle low but ready. "What brings you here?" "Heard you're doing the cattle drive to Denver next week." "I am." "We'd like to join you." Owen blinked. "Why?" Garrett glanced at the other men, then back at Owen. "Because we've been talking. About what you did. About how you stood up when the rest of us sat down." He shifted his weight. "We ain't proud of that. And we figure the least we can do is help you make some money so you can keep this place." Owen stared at him. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. We got cattle that need moving, and we'd rather ride with a man we respect than a man we don't. You don't even know me." "We know enough." Garrett held out his hand. "So, what do you say you in?" Owen looked back at the cabin where Evelyn stood in the doorway watching. She nodded once. He turned back to Garrett and shook his hand. "I'm in." The next 3 weeks were a blur of preparation. Owen worked from dawn to dusk, repairing fences, breaking horses, and organizing supplies for the drive. Evelyn helped where she could, but her focus was on the children, making sure they felt safe and settled. The guardianship hearing came and went with little fanfare. Carver granted Owen full legal custody, citing his exemplary care and dedication. Morris wasn't even there to protest. The welfare board had bigger problems. The territorial investigation had uncovered a network of corruption and abuse spanning multiple counties. Morris was under indictment. Pastor Gaines had quietly resigned. "It's over," Wren said when he delivered the papers. "You're their legal father now." Owen stared at the document, his hands trembling. Just like that. Just like that. When Evelyn read the papers, she cried. Not from sadness, but from relief so profound it hurt. "They're ours," she whispered. "Really ours." "They always were," Owen said. "Now it's just official." That night, they told the children. Clara didn't say anything, just hugged Owen so tight he could barely breathe. Samuel asked if that meant he could call Owen Pa. Owen said yes, his voice breaking. Bess smiled for the first time in weeks. Thomas asked if they could get a dog now. Ruthie just climbed into Owen's lap and fell asleep. The morning of the cattle drive, Owen stood on the porch, saddling his horse. Evelyn came out wrapping a scarf around her shoulders against the early chill. "You don't have to go," she said quietly. "Yes, I do. We need the money." "We'll manage." "I want us to do more than manage." He turned to her. "I want to fix this place up. Add a room for the girls. Get new stock. Maybe even hire some help so you're not working yourself to death. I don't need all that. But I want to give it to you anyway." He cupped her face. "You sacrificed everything for those kids. Let me do this. Let me take care of you for once." Her eyes filled. "You already do." "Then let me do more." She kissed him soft and lingering. "Come back safe." "I will." He mounted his horse and rode toward the gate where Garrett and the others were waiting. But before he left, he turned back one last time. Evelyn stood on the porch surrounded by the children. Clara waved. Samuel shouted goodbye. Bess blew him a kiss. Thomas held up the toy horse, and Ruthie, perched on Evelyn's hip, reached toward him with both hands. Owen burned that image into his memory, knowing it would carry him through the hard days ahead. Then he turned and rode out the dawn-breaking gold across the prairie. 3 weeks later, Owen returned with $250 in his saddlebag and a scar on his shoulder from a spooked steer. The moment he crested the hill and saw the cabin, his chest loosened. Smoke rose from the chimney. Laundry hung on the line. Everything was exactly as it should be. He dismounted in the yard, and the door flew open. The children poured out shouting his name, tackling him before he could take 3 steps. He laughed, holding them all at once, their voices a beautiful chaos. Evelyn walked out slowly, a smile breaking across her face. She didn't run, just walked straight into his arms and held him. "You're home," she whispered. "I'm home." That night, after the children were asleep, Owen and Evelyn sat by the fire. He counted out the money on the table, $250 from the drive plus the $120 that remained from Hannah's collection. "That's $370, Evelyn said. "More than enough to pay off the bank." "More than enough to start over," Owen corrected. He looked at her. "What do you want to do with it?" "I want to build that extra room. I want to buy seeds for a real garden. I want to get Thomas his dog." She paused. "And I want to put some aside, just in case." "In case of what?" "In case the world tries to take this from us again." Owen pulled her close. "It won't. I won't let it. You can't control everything." "No, but I can control this." He kissed her forehead. "We're building something here, Evelyn. Something good. And nobody's taking it from us. Not the bank, not the church, not anyone." She leaned into him, her head on his chest. "I believe you." Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, carrying with it the scent of rain and new growth. And inside the cabin, for the first time in longer than either of them could remember, there was peace. The next morning, Owen rode into town and walked straight into the bank. Hadley looked up, his face paling. "Calhoun, what do you want?" Owen dropped a leather pouch on the desk. It landed with a heavy thud. "That's $370, more than enough to clear the debt and buy out the lien." Hadley opened the pouch, counted the money, and his face went slack. This clears it." "Good. Draw up the papers. I want the deed in my name by the end of the day." Hadley's hands shook as he reached for the ledger. "You know this doesn't change anything. People still talk. They still think. I don't care what they think." Owen leaned forward, his voice dropping to a growl. "But if you ever come near my family again, if you ever so much as look at them wrong, I will burn this bank to the ground and you with it. Understand?" Hadley nodded, sweat beading on his forehead. Owen straightened. "Pleasure doing business with you." He walked out into the sunlight where Hannah was waiting with a grin. "Feel good?" she asked. "Better than good." He tipped his hat. "Feels like winning." That evening, the entire family gathered on the porch to watch the sunset. Clara leaned against Owen's shoulder. Samuel sat at his feet, whittling a piece of wood. Bess and Thomas played with the new puppy they'd brought home from town, a scrappy little mutt with one brown ear and one white. Ruthie sat in Evelyn's lap, humming a tune she'd made up. "What should we name him?" Thomas asked, holding up the puppy. "How about Lucky?" Clara suggested. "Why Lucky?" "Because we are." Owen smiled and pulled Evelyn closer. She rested her head on his shoulder, her hand finding his. "You think this is real?" she whispered. "What do you mean, this? Us? All of it? You think it's real, or just a dream?" He kissed the top of her head. "If it's a dream, I don't ever want to wake up." She laughed softly, and the sound was like music. "Me neither." They sat there as the sky turned from gold to purple to black, the stars emerging one by one. And in that moment, surrounded by the people they loved, they knew one undeniable truth. They were home. Winter came early that year, but it didn't feel cruel. The first snow fell soft and quiet, blanketing the ranch in white while smoke curled from the chimney like a prayer answered. Owen stood in the doorway of the new room he'd built, watching Evelyn hang curtains Clara had sewn from flour sacks dyed yellow with goldenrod. "You like it?" he asked. She turned, her face glowing in the lamplight. "It's perfect. Girls will have more space now, won't be so cramped. They don't mind being cramped." She stepped closer, touching his chest. "But this is good, real good." He caught her hand and held it. "I was thinking maybe we could add a porch in spring, somewhere you could sit and watch the kids play." "You spoil me, Owen Calhoun." "I'm trying to." He pulled her close. "You deserve spoiling." From the other room came the sound of children laughing. Thomas was chasing Ruthie with Lucky nipping at their heels. Samuel was reading to Bess from a book Hannah had given them. Clara stood at the stove stirring something that smelled like heaven. "Feels like a different life," Evelyn whispered. "Like that woman freezing in the snow was somebody else." She was somebody else, stronger maybe, but lonelier. "And you feel different." He thought about it. "I feel whole, like I've been walking around with pieces missing and didn't even know it until you showed up." She kissed him soft and slow, and he wondered how he'd ever lived without this. So, the following Sunday, they went to town together for the first time since the wedding. Not to the church, they'd never go back there, but to the mercantile. Owen needed nails, and Evelyn wanted fabric for winter clothes. When they walked in, the store went quiet. Every head turned. Mrs. Abernathy stood behind the counter, her mouth a thin line. "Calhoun," she said stiffly. "Mrs. Abernathy." Owen tipped his hat. "Need some supplies." She didn't move, just stared at Evelyn like she was something dirty that had wandered in off the street. "You going to help us or not?" Owen's voice carried an edge. "I suppose." She moved slow, making a show of her reluctance. Clara stepped forward, her chin high. "We need 10 yards of wool, ma'am. The blue if you got it." Mrs. Abernathy's eyes narrowed. "That much fabric costs money." "We got money." Clara pulled out coins Owen had given her. The woman took the money like it burned her fingers, then measured out the fabric in hostile silence. When she handed it over, she didn't meet Clara's eyes. "Thank you kindly," Clara said, her voice sweet as honey laced with steel. They were loading the wagon when a group of women approached. Owen tensed his hand, moving toward his belt. But these women weren't carrying judgment. They carried food. Hannah led them along with Mrs. Tooley and 3 others Owen recognized from the trial. "Thought you might could use some preserves," Hannah said, handing Evelyn a basket. "Winter's coming on hard." Mrs. Tooley added a tin of cookies. "For the children." Another woman, younger with kind eyes, held out a knitted blanket. "Made this for your family. Heard you're doing good out there." Evelyn's throat closed. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say nothing," Hannah replied. "Just take it." "Why are you doing this?" Evelyn managed. The young woman spoke up. "Because you showed us something. You showed us that family ain't always blood, that courage ain't always loud, and that sometimes the people we throw away are the ones worth keeping most." Evelyn broke, then tears streaming down her face. Owen put his arm around her while the women gathered close, not pitying, just present. From across the street, Pastor Gaines watched from the church steps, his face twisted with impotent rage. But he didn't move, didn't speak, just turned and walked inside the door, slamming behind him. "Let him rot," Hannah muttered. "His time's done." That night, after the children were asleep, Owen found Evelyn sitting on the porch, wrapped in the new blanket, staring at the stars. "Cold out here," he said, joining her. "I like the cold now. Reminds me I survived it." He put his arm around her, and they sat in comfortable silence. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I was pregnant once. Before Clara. Lost the baby at 4 months. Owen went still. Dutch blamed me. Said I worked too hard, didn't take care. Maybe he was right. She pulled the blanket tighter. After that, every child I carried, I was terrified. Terrified I'd lose them. Terrified I wasn't strong enough to keep them safe. You kept them safe, Evelyn. Against everything. No, you did. She looked at him. I was drowning. You pulled me out. You pulled all of us out. We pulled each other out. She leaned into him, and he felt the weight she'd been carrying start to lift piece by piece, breath by breath. I want to tell you something, he said quietly. About Lily. Evelyn tensed slightly but didn't pull away. She was good, kind, but we weren't happy. The words came hard. We married young because that's what you did. And we tried. God knows we tried. But there was always something missing. Some spark that just wasn't there. He paused. When she got pregnant, I thought maybe that would fix it, but she died before I could find out. Owen? I spent a year hating myself for not loving her enough, for not being enough. His voice cracked. And then you showed up. And for the first time I understood what I'd been missing, what we'd both been missing. What's that? This. He gestured between them. This thing where I wake up wanting to see your face. Where I come home and the house feels alive. Where I look at you and think I'd burn the world down to keep you safe. He turned to her. That's what I didn't have before. And now I do. Because of you. Evelyn was crying again, but she was smiling too. You're going to make me love you something terrible, Owen Calhoun. Too late. You already do. She laughed through her tears and kissed him like she was trying to prove him right. Spring came with wildflowers and new calves and a letter from Wren. Owen opened it at the kitchen table while Evelyn kneaded bread and the children did their lessons. Clara had started teaching them. What's it say? Evelyn asked. Owen read aloud. Dear Owen, and Evelyn thought you'd like to know that Inspector Morris was sentenced to 5 years for corruption and child endangerment. Pastor Gaines was removed from his position and the church council dissolved. The territorial governor is implementing new child welfare reforms to prevent future abuses. Your case was cited as the catalyst. You should be proud. He set the letter down. We did it. We actually changed something. Clara looked up from her primer. Does that mean other kids won't get taken like we did? That's what it means. Good. She went back to reading, but Owen saw her smile. That afternoon they planted a garden together, all of them on their knees in the dirt, pressing seeds into soil that smelled like possibility. Ruthie planted more rocks than seeds, but nobody corrected her. Thomas kept stopping to play with Lucky. Samuel worked methodical and serious beside Owen. Bess hummed while she dug. Clara supervised like a tiny general. What are we planting? Ruthie asked. Tomatoes here, Evelyn said. Beans over there, squash in that corner. Can we plant flowers too? Course we can. What kind do you want? Ruthie thought hard. Yellow ones, like Mama's dress. Evelyn's breath caught. Ruthie had started calling her Mama about a month ago, tentative at first, then more confident. But it still hit Evelyn every time. Yellow flowers it is, she managed. By sunset, the garden was planted, and they were all covered in dirt. They washed up at the pump, splashing each other, laughing, as Lucky barked and jumped. Owen lifted Ruthie onto his shoulders, and she shrieked with delight. Clara chased Samuel with a wet rag. Bess and Thomas had a contest to see who could make the biggest splash. Evelyn stood back watching her family and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not just contentment, not just relief, but joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. Owen caught her eye and smiled. You all right? Better than all right. She walked over and took his hand. I'm happy. Yeah. Yeah. He kissed her forehead. Good. That's all I want. You happy. Them happy. That's everything. Summer brought work and heat and the kind of routine that felt like blessing. Owen hired 2 hands to help with the ranch, young men from Bent Creek who needed work and didn't ask questions. Evelyn started selling her sewing in town, making enough to buy new shoes for the children and fabric for curtains. Clara learned to ride and helped Owen with the cattle. Samuel discovered he had a gift for numbers and started keeping the books. Bess came out of her shell slowly, her voice growing stronger. Thomas and Ruthie were inseparable, always covered in mud and mischief. One evening Owen was fixing a fence when a rider approached. He recognized the man Garrett from the cattle drive. "Calhoun?" Garrett called, dismounting. "Got a proposition for you." "I'm listening." "We're organizing a cooperative. Bunch of us small ranchers. Figure if we pool resources, negotiate together, we can compete with the big outfits." "What's that got to do with me?" "We want you to lead it." Owen blinked. "Why me?" "Because you're the only man who stood up to the church, the bank, and the welfare board, and won." Garrett grinned. "That's the kind of stubborn we need." "I got a family to think about." "We all do. That's the point." Garrett extended his hand. "What do you say?" Owen thought about it. Thought about the life he was building, the people depending on him. But he also thought about what Evelyn had said, that they'd shown people something. That courage wasn't always loud. He shook Garrett's hand. "I'm in, but my family comes first. Always." Wouldn't expect anything less. When Owen told Evelyn that night, she wasn't surprised. "You're going to change this whole county, aren't you?" she said, smiling. "I'm just trying to make things better." "That's what changing things means." She kissed his cheek. "I'm proud of you. Even if it means I'll be busier. Even then, because I know you, and I know you'll always come home." Fall came with harvest and hard work, and a letter that made Evelyn cry. It was from her sister, the one she hadn't spoken to in 3 years, the one who'd turned her away when Dutch died. "Dear Evelyn," it read, "I heard about what happened, about the trial and the wedding. I should have been there. I should have helped when you needed me. I was scared and selfish and wrong. If you can forgive me, I'd like to visit. I'd like to meet your new family. Your sister Margaret." Evelyn read it 3 times, her hands shaking. "What do you want to do?" Owen asked gently. "I don't know." She looked up at him. "Part of me wants to tear this up and never think about her again. But another part wants your sister back." "Is that weak?" "No, it's human." He took her hand. "You want my opinion?" "Always." "I think you should let her come. Not for her sake, for yours. So you can look her in the eye and decide for yourself if she's worth forgiving." Evelyn nodded slowly. "All right, I'll write her back." Margaret arrived 2 weeks later, thin and nervous, carrying a basket of apples. She stood at the gate like she wasn't sure she was allowed to enter. Evelyn walked out to meet her. They stared at each other for a long moment. "I'm sorry," Margaret said, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry, Evelyn." "You should be." "I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know I was wrong, about everything." Evelyn's jaw worked. Then slowly she nodded. "Come inside. Meet your nieces and nephews." Margaret's face crumpled with relief. "Thank you." They didn't hug. Not yet. But they walked into the house side by side, and that was enough. By the end of the visit, Margaret was on the floor playing with Ruthie, while Thomas showed her his collection of interesting rocks. Clara watched from a distance, protective but curious. Samuel asked Margaret about their mother, the grandmother he'd never met. Bess gave her a drawing she'd made. "They're beautiful," Margaret whispered to Evelyn. "All of them." "They are." "And your husband, he's a good man." "The best." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "I'm glad you found this. After everything, I'm glad you found happiness." Evelyn looked around at her family, her loud, messy, perfect family, and felt something settle in her chest. something that had been broken for a long time, finally healing. "Me too," she said softly. "Me too." Winter returned, completing the circle, and with it came the anniversary of the day Owen had found them in the snow. He woke before dawn and stepped outside. The world was white and still, just like it had been a year ago, but everything else was different. Evelyn joined him wrapped in a shawl. "You thinking about that day?" "Yeah." "Me too." She slipped her hand into his. "I was so scared, so certain we were going to die." "I was scared too. Scared I'd open that door and not find you in time. But you did. But I did." He turned to her. "You know what I think about most. That moment when you looked at me, and I saw you deciding to trust me. That was the bravest thing I ever witnessed. It didn't feel brave. It felt like surrender. Sometimes they're the same thing." She leaned against him, and they watched the sun rise over the prairie, painting the snow gold and pink. Behind them, the cabin door creaked open. Clara stepped out, followed by the others, all wrapped in blankets and quilts. "We couldn't sleep," Clara said. "Figured we'd watch the sunrise with you." Owen opened his arms, and they all crowded in 6 children, 1 woman, 1 man, and a scruffy dog huddled together against the cold and the memory of what they'd survived. "I love you all," Owen said, his voice thick. "Every single one of you." "We love you too, Pa," Samuel said, and the others echoed him. Evelyn rested her head on Owen's chest, listening to his heartbeat, strong and steady. "You saved us." "No." He kissed the top of her head. "We saved each other." As the sun climbed higher, burning away the last shadows of that terrible night a year ago, they stood together. Not perfect, not unmarked by the past, but whole, healed, home, and that Owen thought was the only miracle that mattered. The children went back inside, eventually drawn by the promise of Clara's pancakes. But Owen and Evelyn stayed a moment longer, holding each other in the morning light. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That I'd do it all again. Every fight, every heartbreak, every moment of fear, if it meant ending up here with you. Even the bad parts. Especially the bad parts, because they led to this." She smiled, and it was the smile of a woman who'd walked through fire and come out stronger. "Then I guess we're both lucky. Lucky and stubborn. The best combination." They walked back inside together, closing the door on the cold and the past. Inside, their family waited. Breakfast was cooking. The fire was warm. Lucky was begging for scraps. Clara was bossing everyone around. Samuel was setting the table. Bess was braiding Ruthie's hair. Thomas was asking if they could go sledding after breakfast. It was chaos. It was beautiful. It was theirs. Owen pulled out Evelyn's chair before sitting in his own. Clara served pancakes with a flourish. Ruthie spilled her milk and laughed instead of crying. Bess stole bacon off Thomas's plate. Samuel said grace, thanking God for family and second chances, and Pa's good cooking. After breakfast, they bundled up and went outside. Owen pulled the children on a sled he'd built, while Evelyn threw snowballs at all of them. Lucky bounded through the drifts, barking at nothing and everything. They built a snowman together, giving him a carrot nose and button eyes and one of Owen's old hats. When they finally came inside, frozen and happy, Evelyn made hot cocoa while Owen stoked the fire. The children shed their wet clothes and huddled by the hearth, their cheeks pink, their eyes bright. "Best day ever," Ruthie declared. "You say that every day," Thomas teased, "because every day is the best day." She looked at Owen and Evelyn. "Right, right," Owen agreed, his voice rough with emotion. That night, after the children were asleep, Owen and Evelyn lay in their bed, hands clasped between them. "You think they'll remember?" Evelyn asked quietly. "The bad times?" "Maybe, but I think they'll remember the good times more. The times we chose to be a family. The times we fought for each other. That's what'll stick." "I hope so. I know so." He rolled toward her, propping himself up on one elbow. Because that's what I remember about my own childhood. Not the hard parts. The parts where I felt loved. She touched his face. You're a good father, Owen. I'm trying to be. You are. She pulled him down and kissed him. You are. They fell asleep, tangled together, warm and safe, while outside the snow fell soft, and the stars wheeled overhead, and the world spun on. In the morning, Owen woke to find all 5 children piled into their room, sprawled across the floor and the foot of the bed. Clara had her arm around Ruthie. Samuel was snoring softly. Bess's hand rested on Lucky's head. Thomas was curled up like a question mark. Evelyn stirred beside him. What happened? I think they had nightmares. All of them. Or maybe they just wanted to be close. She smiled sleepily. We should probably get a bigger bed. Probably. But neither of them moved. Just lay there surrounded by the children they'd fought so hard to keep feeling the weight and the wonder of it all. This was what they'd fought for. This messy, imperfect, beautiful life. These children who called them Mama and Pa. This ranch that was finally truly theirs. This love that had grown from desperation into something solid and sure. Owen looked at Evelyn and saw his entire world reflected in her eyes. She looked back and smiled, and he knew she saw the same in his. They'd been broken, both of them, shattered by loss and cruelty and a world that didn't care. But they'd found each other in the wreckage. They'd built something new from the pieces, something stronger than what had come before. And that Owen thought as he pulled his family close and closed his eyes, was the greatest victory of all. They had chosen each other. They had fought for each other. They had become a family, not by blood or law, but by an act of will and an abundance of love. And nothing, not the town's judgment, not the church's condemnation, not the bank's greed, not the law's cruelty, nothing could take that away. They were home, they were whole, they were forever, and that was more than enough.